Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of The Pulse with BP. I'm your host, Billy Parvatam. Folks, I'm so excited today to be joined by Mr. Bryant Johnson, the Assistant Director of Broadcasting for the Virginia Tech Sports Network. He's the voice of women's basketball as well as baseball, also does some work on the ACC Network. Bryant, thanks so much for joining me today.
I appreciate the invite, and I love the decor in your bedroom.
For sure, I really appreciate it. I wish I could say it was real, but it's just a nice screen for the background.
2020, it's real if you pretend it is. Just embrace it, Billy.
For sure. Well, I wanted to ask you, first of all, how are you handling this pandemic? I mean, of course, this is something that has uprooted our lives for much of 2020. I'm sure just like me, you're excited to put 2020 behind us with the new year on Friday. But how have you been handling this pandemic?
Wake up every morning, listen to Kendrick Lamar and Janae Aiko saying, stay ready to me, and just, oh, we're playing Florida State at New Year's Eve at noon now, and we're not playing on the 3rd. And we had to, you just have to throw everything that you thought mattered about broadcasting out the window, and what prep means, and having ample amount of time to anticipate an opponent. And John Laser had 36 hours to prepare for the number 3 team in the country when Virginia Tech and Villanova balled it up. And we've had, these late developments and surprises as well. There is something magical in the spontaneity of these broadcasts. And if you just deconstruct what this is all about, and for me, it's just put me in an arena or in a booth 1,000 miles away calling a game. If it's off a monitor, if it's in attendance, wherever I am, if I get to call a live sporting event, that's my number one career priority. Just tell me what I have to do to get there. Tell me how many tests I have to take each week. Tell me if I have to wear a mask during the broadcast, whatever. I mean, none of us want to, but is that what it takes? Then I will do it. And we've found out a lot of people don't have anything at stake this year. They have no skin in the game, and they will fight every single development if it intrudes on what they believe to be an intrusion in their freedom. And we've got 18 to 22-year-old kids who have just said, yeah, I mean, we'd love to be doing the Virginia Tech experience. There's a lot of cool traditions here that are a lot of fun for the students. Nothing. And have they fought it? No. And we just go and wake up at 6 a.m, practice, work out, stay with the team. What's next? So that's the beauty and the frustration of it. If you have something at stake this year, then you realize, man, I will do whatever it takes to do what I love.
For sure. Let's go back to more happier times. When did you realize you wanted to become a sports broadcaster?
When I was about to get fired from my news reporter job and had no choice. And, we talked off the air a little bit. I've been fired 3 times, and there was nothing I could have done in any of those 3. Absolutely nothing. It was just structural changes in an industry that has isolated broadcasters. And that's been the big reverse in the last 50 years on air. And a lot of it is tied to the personalities of the 70s and 80s, and then Sports Center and, oh, I matter. I'm the on-air talent. Well, we found out real quick when the on-campus network model was implemented, what positions are valued, and they should be. Behind the scenes is what generates so much of what this industry is about right now. And on air has become a freelance word. So in this gig economy, if you don't have versatility and you just want to call games, that's not going to work. And that was the best lesson for me when I had to pivot out of news reporting, which I loved. Well, why don't I just take everything that I've learned from covering politics and state government and start to apply it for how I'm going to interview these high school kids and these athletes. And it just led itself into embrace the unexpected and never feel like you can't get better at something you know nothing about. And for me, that's been humbling with video. A lot of broadcasters, they don't edit highlights and have a presence with video. Well, that's going to change. You guys are going to change the game, and the expectation of what broadcasters are offering. Your generation has grown up with it in your hands. I still used a rotary phone growing up. I didn't have a cell phone till I was in college. I mean, TikTok out the womb for you guys. And that's going to be amazing to see how you incorporate this new age skill set with a traditional respect of what a broadcast is all about. it'll be special. And that's just kind of been that road since I left La Crosse, Wisconsin in 2007, took a job in the San Juan Islands and in Washington State, high school, called a junior college game and thought I called the national championship. Division II in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference, 2010 to 2015 in Colorado, and just always trying to find another ambitious person that could help me get better at the things I wasn't good at, and then talk to everybody in the industry and find out my weaknesses on air. It never stops, and that's half the fun of it.
Well, I was going to ask you, because you mentioned you've been all over the place for your broadcast career. I mean, you talked about Wisconsin, San Juan, Colorado, Louisiana. I mean, what's it been like to be able to travel the country for the purposes of your career? I'm sure every place has helped you get to where you are today.
Oh, there's just nothing like it. And I never thought it would go this route, but I've never lived in a place for more than 5 years. I ended up 4 high schools in 4 years. So just that kind of wherever your feet are at, that's home. Make the most of it. Prepared me well for what this industry has become. Virginia Tech was the first job that I had a chance to visit the campus before I accepted. And you know what that looks like in a lot of these small towns, and you just roll up to the apartment complex that you picked up on Craigslist, and all right, it's just expectations are low, so let's not worry about it. You do it because I'm going to get paid to call games. So Alamosa, Colorado, population 14,000, 4.5 hours from Denver, 3.5 hours from Albuquerque, rural, middle of the nowhere, southern deserts of New Mexico, Colorado, 11-hour bus rides where the heat breaks and, you hit a deer and you're going through these crazy mountain passes, just slipping and sliding, and you're helping the driver put snow tires on the rig on Wolf Creek Pass in Colorado at 2 a.m, and all you can do is laugh every step of the way. We're playing Boise State. Awesome. We're taking a bus. It's 16 hours one way. Fantastic. We're playing UNLV. Great. 17-hour bus ride. Love it. So that was always kind of the dance, right? Because then I'm going to call a game at UNLV. This is going to be big time. Didn't really feel big time, and we almost beat y'all. So that kind of pedestal of this is Division I. This is, we got a lot of people who act different based on who they think is important. A lot of people in the world are just going to size up an opponent, a person, and think, nah, I don't need to be on my game with them. And that's how Division II teams can, win at Utah State like we did, and at Utah. And that's how a lot of this industry is reconfiguring itself right now. If it's just about the game and it's just about the broadcast, then let's respect everybody that's trying to pull this off, because college sports is crazy. And we've seen that with the reductions. And we've had 4 people a couple of weeks ago in the athletic department that were relieved of their duties, and it is painful because people are picking up responsibilities of others, and everybody's chipping in. But it's just a fact of life right now that this is a lean year, and rainy day funds just don't exist at this level. But we're seeing professional teams have 15-20% reductions as well. So you're just constantly reminding yourself, man, do not get comfortable. Do not complain about whatever this year has revealed. Just, okay, I'm ready to do my part, and I'm not going to say that it has to look like this for me to do it.
For sure. So how did this opportunity for you come up with Virginia Tech? I mean, you've been all over the country, as I mentioned. And so how did it lead to here in Blacksburg, Virginia?
It just was one of those right place, right time where I thought, there might be an opportunity in some of the earlier off-season cycles. As well as anybody, I mean, June to July is really it in sportscasting. That's when everything happens. And this was just a total Louisiana trickle down, which makes the domino effect of this industry so fascinating. That Sean Kelly, just legendary broadcaster that not enough people know about, just beautiful technical broadcaster. You always see the game when you close your eyes and you listen to him broadcast the Pelicans game. He gets hired by ESPN. The Pelicans hired Todd Graffanini from Tulane. Tulane hires Andrew Allegretta, and then one day I'm just sitting in New Orleans realizing, wait, that just means in September, when nobody's hiring, Virginia Tech's going to have, oh, wow. So that, they still had 400 people apply, but I think just doing what you're doing right now and staying in touch with people, staying in touch with Lays over the years and getting to know him as everybody gets to know Lays, which is in social situations where he's making everybody feel comfortable and, like they belong. Just having that rapport with him allowed me to be in a position to move quickly. But I think the video work that I was doing in Louisiana had caught his attention after I was hired at Nichols. We had seen each other at a seminar in North Carolina in 2013. We both got hired by Virginia Tech and Nichols a month apart in the summer of 2015. And I had made a video on the Bayou Boys of our football team, last name Arsenault and Bro, Breaux, Arceneaux, just Cajun everything. And it was, doing what I've tried to do everywhere I've lived, which is turn the mirror on the locals that maybe don't realize how they look to those of us who aren't from here. Wait, you guys get up before football practice and you go out on those little skimmers with the moonbeams at 5 a.m. and you catch frogs and you shoot gators in season and you wrestle with your own. Oh yeah, man, we wrestle with our hands. Here's a video. I'd like to make a video on this actually. And it, won an award with the Louisiana Broadcasters Association, first non-TV affiliate to win one. And it wasn't even that good. I mean, it was, you can tell I didn't really know what I was doing, but the story was compelling. And, Lay saw it and he called me and he said, it's just, there's something different about making home where you're at and moving anywhere like he did to Yakima and Altoona and making his little Southern swing as well into Virginia. He knew that there were going to be some opportunities at Virginia Tech moving forward. And he had said, if you're going into this kind of story collaboration mode and you're making 50% of your gig play-by-play and you're really focusing on creative content on the other 50, that, this might be a place that you'll have an opportunity at down the road. But until you have that domino effect, it's never real. And that's what's crazy. It's never real until it happens. And everything in this industry, whatever I've prepared for hasn't happened. And then your phone rings and what, where did that come from? So that's the highs and the lows that, man, you got to live in the middle in broadcasting. And if all of the things I thought I wanted would have happened, I wouldn't be here. I tried to get out of the industry and become a sports anchor in Colorado Springs just because there was an opportunity. And I thought, well, I want to live in a city. I'm sick of living in rural Colorado. I, didn't get the job, and wow, that would have been awful if I would have gotten the job. But that's the beauty of it all.
For sure. So I want to talk about an opportunity. I mean, you got hired to be the voice of women's basketball and baseball, but you get an opportunity earlier this year when John Laser has to quarantine because it's possibly might have been exposed to someone who had COVID. And all of a sudden you get the opportunity to call a Virginia Tech football game in Lane Stadium against Boston College. I mean, what was that whole process like, and how excited were you to get an opportunity that, quite frankly, isn't available that often?
Yeah, I wish I could push replay on that whole day and watch it with the perspective that it's already happened. Until I got in my car after the game, I had just tunnel visioned it all. And that was the coolest moment of my life, sitting there looking at the south end zone and just going, that did happen. That happened. Because you respect what it is Lays and Roth and all these guys that just kill it every week calling college football with thousands of people listening. And sometimes when you're in these smaller places, that you can have an A+ broadcast every night, but if nobody hears it. So just knowing what it means to represent Virginia Tech football and to have Burn Up next to you and to have this standard that not enough schools have with their radio market. Virginia Tech has a huge radio following in this digital world. Well, that's special that people sync in their broadcasts with the TV feed. Do you know how many places have never even conceptualized that notion of doing such a thing? But those are our guys. They know the team. We're listening to them. So the Tuesday when I found out that this was happening, it just was a night and day prep performance that I am proud of, because it became just a 9-hour, like, full-time job straight through, prep my boards like I would at Nichols or wherever I've been, and get into the routine. And that's why, Lay's allowed me to do something that not a lot of people can do every Saturday or even in a fill-in situation. And that's just focus on the broadcast and focus on the game. And, hey, go live at your little farmhouse in rural Blacksburg, Bryant, and just research Boston College and Virginia Tech football, and don't worry about anything else. And that really gave me comfort when 8 p.m. rolled around on October 17th and it was time for kickoff. Well, I've prepared as best I can, and, I will prepare, and one day my chance will come.
For sure. I mean,
they played amazing. So what else can I ask for?
For sure. Well, I was going to ask you, how do you prepare for a game usually? I mean, you've called baseball, you've called basketball, you've called football. I mean, what is your process like going through preparing for a game? And I'm sure even now with, the amount of last minute cancellations or rescheduled games, I'm sure it's got to be even more hectic in these days in 2020.
Yeah. Yes. I lean heavy on film, and everybody learns differently. Visual, and then processing with a bookmark in your brain. It's one thing to see something, it's another to process and go, noted. I'm just trying to prepare for the next broadcast. If you want to go have a quiz with me about what I prepared for last week, I'm probably getting a C- on it. But I'm going to get an A+ on this broadcast, because I'm going to have everything. And then when I have to move on to the next one, a lot of that is going to disappear, but whatever. That's the whole point of preparing with an end game in mind. And if you are in a position to connect with assistant coaches and then eventually the head coach, you want to sell yourself early on as the most credible possible person to work with this program, but you also want them to walk away from your first couple meetings and go, okay, well, he's done his homework. He's researched the team. And this is important, because if you are going to cut corners on film, you got to get it from the coaches. And, luckily we're at a place where there's been no resistance to those overtures that I've made to our baseball and basketball staffs. And they've given me a guest account on the services they use. And it's just unfair how much time you save. Because for me, I'd love to go watch every game Florida State has played, but sometimes it's just going to be easier to pull up their 8-person rotation, figure out strengths and weaknesses, and go, okay, well, what does this look like over the course of the season? So I'm going to click on 3-point misses, and there's going to be clips, every single 3-point miss, every single make. I'm going to figure out where their hot spots are. I'm going to find out where they've been turning the ball over. And you can do in 2 hours what watching 6 games might teach you, and just getting a feel for, here's when they zone, here's when they press, here's when their rotation can have some cracks in it. Just doing that after you've inputted your data, easy. That's the gravy on top of all of this. So day one, I use InDesign, and everybody in the country, I think, has copied Laser at this point and used his original board, and now we've customized it off what he created. And it's given me that routine, which I've never had before outside of broadcasting. I know that I have to go and input the rotation, fill in their bios, get my board built today. So tomorrow I can sit back with this board in my hand and then just watch whatever I need to, and then write down notes, make a storyline board. So when I'm coming in and out of breaks, I have something that I can lean on to shape the broadcast. And then it's just rinse and repeat of talking to as many people as possible, which is the big 2020 just death blow, that you do not have the cherry on top. That's the best part of broadcasting, is knowing I've done all my prep. I don't need to do anything more, but I'm going to go make another lap. And I bet an assistant coach is going to drop something in my ear that's going to be amazing for this open. And you are separated from that world completely. So then it's just lean on the prep and the online work and watch the film, and know that the fans aren't going to know a difference. You are, but it's still there. It's still a game, and you're there to sell the fun.
For sure. And I wanted to ask you, Brian, about a mutual friend that we have, and we were talking about this off air, but John Papadopoulos, who is a local radio host in La Crosse, Wisconsin. He was also the longtime voice of the Lacrosse Loggers and Northwoods League summer collegiate baseball team that's where I worked with him with, and you obviously know him from his radio time. But
Yeah.
what's that relationship like with him, and how important has he been to your career?
I still can't spell his last name. Can you?
I cannot.
We all call him Pops for this. Yeah, the Greek dude from Jersey living on the Mississippi River town of La Crosse, Wisconsin. We're kindred spirits in that respect. He's extremely humble man that met his wife, had his kids, and said, my wife is doing really well in La Crosse. I've moved here for my career. I need to make it work here in La Crosse. And just watching him as a news reporter, I would come in from city council and school board meetings or governor press conference, just anything that gave you weird hours. And he was the only guy at the station at 11 p.m., 12 a.m. because he would drive 180 miles one way to Green Bay every Wednesday to get sound and interviews of Favre and McCarthy and, that 2007 team. And we would just be in there setting up the morning show crew with news MP3 highlights and, for him, sports, and just had a lot of conversations in that overlap period. Watching somebody that just has no visions of grandeur outside of this is what I want to do and how can I do this for the rest of my life, and then pulling it off by creating his own radio show, selling it, having side broadcasts that complement the radio show, becoming the guy in a passionate sports market that has 3 colleges with 2 in Minnesota right across the river on the other side of the river, getting the Vikings on as an affiliate with the Packers. He just did a lot of little moves that taught me control what you can and be that bridge for other people. So you're not coming to the sales team and saying, oh, I have a great idea and here's how you're going to do it. And here's how I'm going to make money off of it. Cool. I love those ideas. I get to do everything and you profit. John he would go to the salespeople and find out what they were missing. What direction can we take this in? So high school coverage would get reevaluated to complement businesses that they were targeting. I just thought, that's the way it should be, right? We should just all be in this with the broadcaster in the middle as this fusion tool that's just, I see what you're doing over there, Hokie Club. I see what you're doing, Hokie Vision. I see what you guys are doing, videographers. I see it's awesome, by the way. This is great. There's no weaknesses, but I think I'm just going to try to add to this as much as possible. Wherever we can go and devote more attention, I'd be happy to. And that was Papadopoulos for, 21-year-old me. Nobody's tuning into the broadcast to hear you outside your mom, and she's not listening for the whole broadcast. So maybe understand why you have an audience in the first place. Understand what the parents and grandparents and fans and their players' girlfriends and their side chicks want to hear when they're listening into your broadcast. They just want you to make it about what they love. And that's why the radio history of Virginia Tech is what it is. There's a Hokie standard for what you're supposed to sound like on the air, and fans demand it from you. So you better do it or else you're not going to be here long.
For sure. And Bryant, you've been so gracious with your time. So I guess my final question for you is, where do you see yourself in 10 years? I mean, like we've talked about throughout this conversation, you've been all over the country. You've done so many things. This is only your second year at Virginia Tech, of course, in the middle of this COVID pandemic. But where do you see yourself 10 years from now? Is that anything you can visualize at all?
Absolutely not. You should know better. That's a 2020 question you're going to ask me. Where do I see myself tomorrow? We might have a new opponent. I mean, embrace this 2020 notion of eliminating a year or 2 years or 3 years. I think if you're in sales, if you're an executive, you better have those little check marks in your mind of what you're trying to achieve. I have no idea what this industry is going to look like a few years from now. I hope that more and more athletic departments are taking advantage of broadcasters that want to be in a support role and really help the department, and full-time jobs are now offered with a communications and on-air presence in mind. But right now, the full-time jobs in the industry are minuscule. And outside of the 1% of broadcasters that are 6-7 figures, there's no middle class in this industry right now. So it's trying to anticipate the direction of an industry that doesn't know what direction it wants to go in. For me, that's half the fun in this moment, and why I refuse to picture what it might look like a few years from now, because there's so much happening in the creative content world. These videographers are just getting better and better, and there's so much you can learn from them and make their job easier by just figuring out the angle they want to go, and how can I set this up better in my broadcast, knowing this is going to be pulled with this highlight in mind. That's what makes the next few years fun, because if it continues in that direction, if I'm here 10 years from now working with our creative video team, and we're looking at every sport and trying to paint a different picture on top of the brilliant stuff Hokie Vision is doing, and it just makes this entire department look even bigger and look like it has more resources. That sounds like a lot of fun. It's becoming a competitive world with every athletic department. Everybody wants to win the recruiting war, and there's so much we can do with broadcasting and video to combine the two and make this a billboard operation where every high school kid in the country looks at our social media and goes, damn, that would look really good when I'm scoring touchdowns and, they're covering me. So it's having an open mind about what it's going to look like moving forward in the broadcast realm, and still trying to add as much to the repertoire as possible. And this video thing, man, you can't do it and think that, oh, I'm one of only a few broadcasters that's trying to do video. No, you unfortunately have to hold yourself to the standard of what Hokie Vision is doing and what the top shelf at each school is doing. And that becomes humbling extremely quick. And you've got to be open to just getting ripped by professionals and having them say, this is trash and here's why. And okay, I'm going to make it's not going to be as much trash next time. But that's the fun in this is, broadcasting is nonstop. Every broadcast, you're going to look back and there's going to be something you may wish you could have done differently. But it's fun when you can just take broadcasting, video, and say, well, what if I go at both of them as hard as possible and try to learn as much about this video world as I can, and see how they can combine and complement each other. And that's what makes the next 5 to 10 years fun, even if we have no idea what it's going to look like.
Sir Bryant, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time today.
Enjoyed you and your virtual studio.
For sure. That's Bryant Johnson, the Assistant Director of Virginia Tech Sports Broadcasting, the voice of women's basketball, baseball, and the ACC Network. I'm your host, Billy Parvatam. This has been the latest edition of The Pulse with BP. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.